Let's talk about CJ and the Houston Texans. Currently, as I record this video, they are 0-3 to start the 2025 season. The last team to make the NFL playoffs after starting 0-3, funny enough, it was the Houston Texans. Now it's going to be tough for this current group of players to dig themselves out of this hole because your entire offense is off balance right now. You can't run the football with Nick Chubb. Your offensive line is one of the worst units in the NFL, and you have a quarterback that's not comfortable with this offensive line, and he's not comfortable with the play calls either. But let's start off with the biggest change that happened this offseason. You rehaul this entire offense with Nick Caley being your brand new offensive coordinator. You had Bobby Slowick over the last 2 years. Maybe they should have stuck with Bobby Slowick. Now, Bobby Slowick did have a lot of bad moments, but that rookie season with CJ was spectacular. And you can say, well, the league did not have much film on CJ. As the weeks go on, you get more film on a rookie quarterback. And they still had bad offensive line problems. But the one strong thing that Bobby Slowick did do with CJ that Nick Caley's not doing right now, he had a lot of plays under center. Similar to the San Francisco 49ers with Kyle Shanahan, the same with the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, and Sam Darnold. It helps the quarterback get a better view of the field. You use a lot of motion behind them, a lot of play action. That's what you work into with a young quarterback. And even the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love. So CJ has a historic rookie season. You win this division, and you win a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. Part of the reason why Bobby Slowick got fired and moved on from him was because of what happened last year, the expectation. When you bring in someone like Stephon Diggs, at this point in time before the ACL injury, he was still a top option to have on your offense. You pair that up with Nico Collins, who is one of the most talented wide receivers in the game, and you have Tank Dell inside the slot. That's a top wide receiving core on paper. Not only did they bring in Stephon Diggs, they also brought in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon hasn't played a single down this season just yet because he's dealing with a foot injury. This is my prediction. Unfortunately, I don't think that he'll play anytime soon this year. If he does play, it'll be more so in the back half of the season. I think it's a very serious foot injury. But you bring in Joe Mixon. You bring in all these talented players. You expect to have a top 5 to top 10 offense. That was not the case last year. Now, you still went to the NFL playoffs. You won your division. And you won a playoff game over the Los Angeles Chargers. But it just didn't feel the same. Your offense was so disjointed, it felt off balance. Instead of spreading the football out to Stephon Diggs and same with Tank Dell, CJ's force-feeding the football to Nico Collins, and it worked out. But Nico Collins goes down to hamstring injury. Your offense takes a step back. You go to Stephon Diggs, you have some good moments. He goes down to ACL injury. Now your number one wide receiver is Tank Dell, and you still have a terrible offensive line. Laramie Thompson was your best offensive lineman. We'll get to the offensive line here in a second. But you have those wide receivers on the perimeter. It just wasn't good enough. So they moved on from Bobby Slowick and they bring in Nick Caley. By doing that, you neglect your offensive line yet again. You move on from Laramie Thompson because you wanted to be cheap in the front office. Laramie Thompson has a huge contract. He's now with the Washington Commanders. Laramie Thompson is still one of the best tackles in the game. It is hard to go out there and find a consistent tackle from week to week. And Laramie Thompson, he had some great moments with the Houston Texans. He had some bad moments with the Houston Texans, especially last season. He dealt with some injuries over the last few years. He's had some holding penalties, some false start penalties, but he was still your best offensive lineman. You moved on from him for a second-round pick to bring in Ariante. Ariante so far hasn't been a good player at the left tackle position. Lincoln Thompson at the left guard position. We know what he is at this stage of his career. Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, Titus Howard. This is not a good offensive line unit. My opinion, from this offseason, if you move off of Bobby Slowick, you should also move on from your offensive line coach because all the bad moments that you've had with this offensive line. You no longer have Stephon Diggs. He was a free agent. He went to the Patriots. It was for the best. He's not the same player that he once was. He doesn't have those same explosive plays down the field. And Tank Dell got injured against Kansas City late last season. So your best wide receivers back in Nico Collins, but your number 2 and number 3 wide receivers were originally your number 4 and number 5 wide receivers. But no one brings that up in that loss against Kansas City. So you double cover Nico Collins and you force everyone else to beat you on the outside, and yet that was still a close playoff game because of the performance with the defense, and the same with CJ and Joe Mixon. The problems that the Houston Texans have now: bad offensive line, CJ is not used to this system. He's not comfortable with the play calls. You're not under center as much. And the run game still does not have that explosive component because Joe Mixon is not back. You have an older running back in Nick Chubb that has dealt with brutal injuries within the last few years with a broken foot and a terrible knee injury against the Steelers 2 years ago. And you're forcing CJ to go out there and try to get you over the hump. It's just too much too soon on this quarterback. And it's not CJ being overrated, in my opinion. It's not him being a bad player. He only has one consistent wide receiver in Nico Collins, and that's it. Christian Kirk, we've seen him have some bad moments in the past with the Arizona Cardinals and the same with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he's a solid number 2 to number 3 wide receiver, especially inside the slot. CJ played well enough against the Los Angeles Rams to win that matchup. You lost this game 9-14. CJ throws a beautiful ball to Jaden Higgins, the rookie. It goes for an interception. The ball hit Jaden Higgins. He comes down with it. Here comes Kobe Durant from behind. He snatches it away. They're driving the field late in the fourth quarter. It's a screen pass to the backup running back. CJ hits him. It goes for a fumble. You lose the game. That's not on CJ. In week 2 against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that first drive, you go down the field, Nico Collins, you get that play. Everyone's amped up. Houston's going crazy. CJ has some good moments. He has some terrible moments as well. Even though he's not the sole reason to why they're losing these football games and they're 0-3, he is missing a lot of easy passes. This is where we get into the critiques of CJ, because this is not just a video to where CJ deserves no blame. He deserves some. In that game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dalton Schultz is wide open in the middle of the field. He sees him late in the fourth quarter. It almost went for an interception. It was a play. Nico Collins is a corner route. He gets open. CJ is stuck on Dalton Schultz. When he sees Nico Collins, it's too late. In this league, 1 to 2 seconds, that's an eternity. You have to get the football there as soon as possible. The same quarterback that we saw in year 1 and we saw in year 2, quick decisions, get the football out quick, it's not happening right now. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of this offense around CJ because he doesn't fit, and I feel like Nick Caley's in over his head as an offensive coordinator, he's missing a lot of easy passes. Also in today's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Christian Kirk is wide open in the slot. Late in the game, 1 minute and 7 seconds left, CJ overthrows him. And you're going to have some overthrows. You're going to have some drops. You're going to have some misreads. But in those crucial moments when the team needs you the most, can you step up? And CJ hasn't done it this year with those missed throws. He's been very inaccurate in certain parts of these games. He has to be better from that standpoint. I think that he will be better. But the offensive line, the play calling, those are the two biggest issues right now. And that wide receiving core. Jaden Higgins, I don't think that he's ready to be this starting caliber wide receiver just yet. You see the upside there. It's just not consistent. The same with him and Jalen Noel. I think in the future they will be. But you have sacrificed a lot of pieces on the offensive end to go younger. And the reason why you made those sacrifices is because you could go out there and beef up your defense because you have the defensive head coach and DeMeco Ryans. But it's going to be tough for the Houston Texans for the rest of the year. The schedule doesn't get easier. And it's really hard to just pump that optimism out there when you lose against the Rams 9-14. You only scored 9 points. Once again, the fumble and the interception. It's important to bring that up. Against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you should have had this game won. DeMeco Ryans being very aggressive in the goal line. He's being very aggressive in the red zone in general. You're a defensive head coach, trusting your defense. I know that those guys are tired. If you get it, you look like a genius. If you don't, you look like this. You lost that matchup 20-19. You couldn't stop the run towards the end of the game because your defense was gassed. But at the same time, you could have went out there. You could have kicked those field goals. You even had a missed field goal in today's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And against the Jags today, CJ, you got bailed out because he did not perform very well in today's matchup overall. The one touchdown that he did get, and you lost this game 17-10. The one touchdown you got was blown coverage. Nico Collins just runs up the field. He's wide open because the cornerback played the flat. He was with the linebacker. The linebacker had the flat. The cornerback, he looks down. Then he just hits his head. He hits his helmet. It happens. Jags still won the game. So if you're a Jaguars fan, you're awesome. Far as the Houston Texans here, you have to get more consistent plays besides just getting those cheap touchdowns like that. Good recognition by CJ for seeing the entire field. But the routes need to be better. The offensive line has to block better. And the run game, it is what it is. You have Woody Marks. You have Nick Chubb. Unless you want to make a trade to bring in an explosive running back, you're going to deal with the pieces that you have. And I feel like Nick Chubb, he's still a very good power back to have. He's not going to go out there and get those 40, 50-yard rushing touchdowns anymore because of his injuries. So this is a group effort, but I blame majority of this on Nick Caserio because you haven't drafted the offensive line position very well from tackle to tackle. You just haven't. And it is so discouraging when you see your defense only give up 14 points, only give up 20 points, only give up 17 points, and you can't win. You can't even score 20 plus points in a game consistently. That is how bad the Houston Texans offense has been. 9 points against the Rams, 19 points against the Bucks, 10 points against the Jags. And one more thing about Nick Caley and why I'm not the biggest fan of him as an offensive coordinator, it was 3rd and goal last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This man is running shotgun at the goal line. Just run the football or run something under center. This is what I'm talking about here. Even though Bobby Sloyd was far from perfect, he knew what to do in those crucial situations. You don't know how good you have it until it's gone. And it seemed like Bobby Sloyd was a good offensive coordinator comparing him to Nick Caley right now. But it's only 3 weeks in the season. I'm really trying not to overreact to the Houston Texans. But if they can't figure this out by week 6, they're done. I don't care how good your defense is. When you play in today's game, if you can't score, you just can't win. You have Will Anderson, you have Daniil Hunter, Henry To'oTo'o, Azeez Al-Shaair, Kalen Bullock on the back end of this defense, Derek Stingley Jr., who did go down in today's game against the Jags. Be on the lookout for that. And you have Kamari Lassiter. You have this Super Bowl ready defense, but your offense is an offense similar to a team that can only win 3 games. It's a tale of 2 different teams. It's a tale of 2 different groups. Your offense is terrible and your defense is phenomenal. If this is a losing season, I'm not saying fire DeMeco Ryans. I still feel like he should be the head coach with the Houston Texans. But I will say this, Nick Caserio, his job is on the line this season because the expectation yet again. And for anyone that's saying, well, CJ may be overrated. He may be this quarterback that we hyped up too soon. CJ came into a franchise that wasn't particularly good. In 2020, they were 4-12. 2021, 4-13. 2022, 3-13-1. Those were the 3 bad years with the Houston Texans. Now, granted, you just trade your franchise quarterback into Deshaun Watson. You were still a bad franchise. You bring in CJ in year 1. You win your division. You win that playoff game. You're 10-7. And you're 10-7 in back-to-back years. So the talent is there. He's done more in his career so far than Trevor Lawrence. It took Peyton Manning 6 seasons to win a playoff game. And I know that's a different NFL, but it's the same game. I'm not giving up on CJ and the Houston Texans just yet, but they have massive problems that they better fix soon. Because if they don't, they may be statistically one of the worst teams in football. But let me know in the comment section below, can the Houston Texans turn it around? And who is the person that you put most of the blame on? CJ, DeMeco Ryans, or Nick Caley, the brand new offensive coordinator? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.